Hello, everyone. Welcome back again to Talk Crypto to Me, the show where we're discovering a lot about what's going on in the industry, making things nice and simple for people so that they can educate themselves and believe more in this incredible industry. I'm here with Alex, who is the head of partnerships at Swissborg, and we're just going to discuss, your personal journey in the industry, working at Swissborg, and just where you see the industry going. And just having a fun chat, really.
A fun chat sounds great, Lily. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Of course. So it's a pleasure. I mean, we met through mutual friends and I've seen you at events. So of course, I needed you to come on my show and just help share a little bit about what you've been up to in the industry.
That was so cool. We actually met on stage, right? You're passing on an award, right? And I was like, oh, we took pictures together.
And,
really cool.
and the picture, I had my eyes shut.
You had your eyes shut?
Yeah, I went on your Instagram and I was like, oh, you were right. My eyes were very much shut in that picture. Whoever decided on choosing that picture did
When
not
that
like
picture
me.
went out, I felt so bad for you, Lily. I'm like, oh, poor thing. It's the most viral picture we have and your eyes are shut.
Yeah, thanks so much. That was all AIBC. Thank you. I love you guys.
Thank you, guys.
do actually love you guys. It was a great award show, but my eyes, maybe I was tired by that point. So Alex, why don't you explain a little bit how you got into the crypto industry and then how you transitioned into working into partnerships?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, just in my personal background in my life, from birth all the way till today, our family experienced two tragic events, which was the revolution in Iran in 1978. And for those who don't know, like a lot of the properties and wealth was confiscated by the governments, right? And already you can see here where we're going in terms of Bitcoin and the importance of that. So that was one tragic event where you can go from, my brother likes to call us nouveau pauvre instead of nouveau rich.
Yeah.
Because we're quite wealthy back then, but we lost everything. So we went from riches to rags, so the other way around. So that was one kind of story what really stuck to us in terms of the issues with government interference and control. And then the second story was more recently, when the U.S. imposed an embargo on Iran, which my dad lives there in Tehran right now. He's 70 plus. And all of a sudden, when you impose an embargo on these countries, what you're doing is you're cutting them off the political and financial grid.
Yeah.
So you lose access to all your bank accounts. So you can see, right, already two very personal stories that made me realize,
centralized exchange, everything is
governments, central banks, it's flawed, I know a lot of people, they question code is law, but really it is essentially if it has a track record, because you cannot trust human beings because there's always greed, there's always bias.
Yeah.
And you really need something that's fair, level playing field for all. So you can see two dramatic stories that really hurt my personal life, my brother's personal life growing up. So it just felt like the natural transition to be a part of this new financial
when
revolution.
You see something like Bitcoin, which is decentralized, you must have been like, wow, this is game changing, because I've seen these different events which have controlled my life and had such a negative impact. It's made you stronger ultimately, but still, it's had a control over your life. And there's not many occasions where someone actually sits down and tells me a story like that, where they've actually been impacted by the system.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people have their own definition for Bitcoin. Some will say it's an asymmetrical return asset, purely on the trading side, hedge against inflation, non-confiscatable asset, the internet of money. But for me, it's an apolitical movement of financial freedom, because it is apolitical. It's technological, and it doesn't have the flaws that us human beings will always have, and it will never change over the course of history.
Yeah, of course, because when you have governmental control, even people believe in democracy, it's still not perfect. It's definitely almost the opposite of perfect in many ways. And this is where the whole crypto industry really is revolutionizing how we see how money, how we forming technology as well. There's so many assets of it, and being part of the industry is, for someone like you, so important because you're seeing this change.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, in terms of wanting to be involved in things, and I repeat this a lot, but I lived in Japan for 11 years. And there's this concept, this philosophy called the ikigai, which means la raison d'être, or your personal life purpose, or some sort of well-being, philosophy. And the idea is kind of like, I struggled to find my own purpose in life, and I think it's a very difficult thing.
Yeah,
I think
course.
schools should be focused more on educating on understanding ourselves, our capabilities, what we should do, what we cannot do, being realistic about that. And I think the education system is a bit flawed in that sense. And on top of that, they don't teach us about money, which is
definitely.
deliberately so. But anyway, that's another topic. And I realized through Japan is I never knew what I wanted to do in life. I was lost. And I think a lot of people feel that way when they graduate from university. They're like, okay, I have a cool degree, but I
What
don't
do I
actually know
do?
what should I do from here? Okay, I'll just listen to my parents or friends and I'll go down a route that does not necessarily fit me as a person. And so the Ikigai concept is 4 quadrants, and it basically says you have to do what you love.
Yeah.
You have to do what you can monetize. You have to do what is for the bigger purpose that can help society, right? And you have to do something that you're competent at. And if you really can combine all 4 of those quadrants, then you have your real purpose in your life. And so because I could, as we were talking about the events that happened with Iran, that definitely resonated to me. It backs a real meaning that brings purpose in my life. And I also feel like, you know, I'm already 42. I don't know how many cycles.
wow.
Thank
I would
you.
not have been able to
I
tell
love that
that.
reaction.
Wow, okay,
Yeah,
yes.
thank you so much. That was a
I
genuine
mean, you did say
reaction.
9 years in Japan. I was trying to work out. I'm like, okay. Wow, interesting. You said you lived in
Wow.
London for a little bit as well, correct?
Yeah, 5
So-
years. Just came back. Just came from London. Yeah.
And now you're living in Dubai.
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole Japanese culture, I think, I actually like the fact they incorporate, you know, as you said, like the monetary aspect of
Yeah.
it, which in a lot of cultures, people are a bit scared to say, you know, you need to make sure it's financially beneficial. But ultimately, money does control a lot of different aspects, and you need some sort of gratification from what you're doing, and also financially, it's important.
Yeah,
as well.
you have to be realistic, right? Like follow your dreams or go for your mission. And all these things they sound great, right? You know, believe in your passion or follow your passion. They're great, but at the end of the day, there has to be some sort of rationale to it as well, right? It can't be full on emotions. So, but yeah, you can see how I just fell into the rabbit hole. And I was just saying, like, at my age, and for those out there, if you want to be involved in crypto, hopefully you're younger than me, but I don't think there's so many transitions in one life where you can really be a part of something that is truly meaningful.
Yeah, and it's part of really in our stages that we are at the moment. It's being revolutionary. It's changing the whole monetary. It's a digital revolution in a way, and the fact that you can be on board with it at any age, any gender. It's completely decentralized. It's here for everyone, and that's why we all need to start learning more about it and understanding why it's so important.
And you, women like you, Lily, are really pushing that forward, because we used to be a crew of 99% geeks, you know. Now we have women like coming and joining us at the events. The gender ratio, the balance is much better. You probably noticed it in the past few years.
That's what we want to see. We want to see more people in the industry and, you know, just see progression. I think that's the most important thing in any industry. Like you say, we're not taught much about finance. We're not taught about crypto and digital assets, but it doesn't mean we can't learn.
Absolutely. It's a really fast learning curve, actually, right? Like my job, so my brother fell in love with the concept of Ethereum. It wasn't Bitcoin that triggered his love for crypto, because one day he just called me. It was late 2016. He actually bought some Ethereum coins, and he was like, Alex, he's from a hedge fund background, right? So hedge fund, and then he did private banking.
So traditional finance. Yeah, through and through.
You only service people who have at least minimum $2 million with all their assets. So servicing only the wealthy who just get wealthier, right? And he didn't really like that, coming from our background with the struggles. He wanted to service people based more on meritocracy and not just a purely capitalistic model. But he called me. He was like, "Oh, Alex, there's something that's called Ethereum. It has smart contracts. It's going to enable what we call the token economy, and all the financial assets, the entire financial industry is going to be on a blockchain." And he was just going completely bonkers. And I'm like, what is he on? Like, he's gone completely. I didn't understand a single word, but I never saw him as hyped and passionate about doing something. And so he got me on board, but I didn't know anything about blockchain. Like I just studied. Within 1 month, I had to go on panels. I was scared to death, sweating. What am I going to do? These guys are all so intelligent. I don't have neither a financial nor technological background. So is this really the fit for me? So if people out there watching feel that way, it doesn't mean anything. Anytime you can join. And you don't necessarily have to invest as well, right? You can just join the meetups.
Yeah, agreed.
You can advise. If you have a different background, you can maybe advise some crypto startups in exchange for tokens. You can just use blockchain protocols, get airdrops.
Yeah.
So you don't have to just invest. Just join us and
understand more, attend events. There's so many different aspects of the industry. I think that's the thing. People see just trading, but there's even gaming that's still starting to understand the blockchain and its relevance. NFTs. It's just a matter of sitting there and thinking, what interests me? What do I like that has real world applications, and how can that potentially be digitalized?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And so for your journey, were you already into crypto when your brother, you got this phone call, or was it something new to you then?
Completely new.
Oh, wow.
Completely
Okay.
new. I had no idea. I had maybe invested in a few stocks, the
Okay.
basics, the big FANG stocks of, the Facebook, the Amazons, the
Mm-hmm.
Netflix, the Googles. But yeah, and the Apples. But I didn't know, I barely knew anything about finance, like full stop.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so then what was your transition from this phone call? Did you then start researching and understanding more?
Yeah, I think the best lessons learned come from the biggest failures, right? I
Agreed.
have a theory that I would rather trust a woman or a man that have failed enough to tell me what is right rather than just succeed and not know what failure is. So
Agreed.
the biggest lessons I've learned was getting wrecked in the bull runs. Like
Yeah.
that is a massive lesson. So a lot of people say, oh, but you lost 90% of your wealth. I said, yeah, but the lessons that I've learned are worth so much more. And the biggest traders in the world, if you've seen the movie The Big Short,
Yes.
so the man who shorted the entire market, who made one of the greatest trades of all time, he's been wrecked multiple times. There's a book called The Market Wizards. They've all been wrecked, like to the point where they could barely pay for rent or food on their plate, where they had to crash on a friend's couch.
Yeah.
So you have to get wrecked. You cannot become a martial arts or a UFC champion without sparring, without getting
Yeah.
punched in the face. It's the same thing in life, right? It's really, there's a great expression in Japanese, which is nana korobi yaoki, which means fall 7 times, get up 8. And that is to me like another great lesson I learned from Japan. And
Well, but
yeah.
sitting behind you, I can see Muhammad
Oh,
Ali,
there
and
you
it literally
go.
is exact. You just have to keep going, and as I say, as you growing, it's all about growing, understanding, asking questions as well. I think people are so scared within our industry to admit they don't know something or something's going wrong. People are so horrified to think, oh, that in my project maybe isn't right, but I can't admit to that. Like everything needs to be right. No one's going to believe my project if there's elements that aren't great, but it actually is just learning from it, collaborating with people as well.
Absolutely. And that point is very important. And I want to back it up with numbers. So we took a company that went from 5 employees to 230 employees over the course of 5 years, right? And I can tell what you just said there. The riskiest thing in life is not taking a risk.
Yeah.
And that's something that unfortunately, once again, in the educational process, to go back to our previous conversations, doesn't teach us, right? It teaches you to play safe all the time, which is the absolute opposite of how to become successful. So yeah, great point.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I think people are, just always concerned about what's their next step. What implication will that next step have? Rather than actually just saying, hold on, this is something I believe in. I understand what I'm doing. Don't just take a risk at a whim. Actually take a risk on something you believe in, that you back, and that you see having potential. And yeah, and as I was saying, I think even collaborations are so important because businesses want to keep their direction and have their amazing company within the industry. But actually, if we don't all collaborate and come together, we're not building this overarching bigger industry.
Yeah, exactly. And okay. So it's another topic and theme that I'm really passionate about. So I like to see myself, Lily, as the peacemaker of crypto. I'm not going to battle TradFi versus DeFi. I'm not going to battle Bitcoin Maxi versus ETH Maxi. All the tribalistic battles are things that I think are slowing us down in terms of the progress. And the whole system is built, sadly, I think our animal instincts, men as hunters, we just by default like to fight. And there's so many, centuries of that type of behavior, which I think it's difficult to break the mold. However, I do think that debates are the most important thing to iron sharpens iron, to get the best outcome out of everything. So we need to have friction, but it should never be personal.
No, of course. Everyone has their opinions, their valid opinions. Everyone's, we're not a full-grown, perfect industry. Everyone's going to have their mindset of what they see as right and wrong. But it really is, having panel discussions, having communities. Communities are so important in this space.
So important.
Without communities, the whole industry fails, really.
Absolutely. So I was just at Satoshi Roundtable 2 months ago, right?
Amazing.
Which is, one of the highest caliber events.
I heard it was a cool event here in Dubai.
You know which module or workshop I went to from the very first minute to the last one? It was the Bitcoin Maxi one. And purely because even though I disagree with their idea, not them as a person, because it's not personal for me, I really wanted to understand their perspective. I would ask them all the questions to really understand where they're coming from. And by understanding where they're coming from and their perspective, all of a sudden you have less animosity.
Yeah.
Because you will realize that, yes, they do have either a trauma or either principles or values that go against what I may be going for, but there's good reason to it. You know, maybe someone got wrecked in an ICO,
Yeah.
so he became a maxi. Maybe one guy is just a purist to the point he hates the capitalistic models. He believes in freedom and privacy.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe it's just someone who, yeah, just Bitcoin has provided so much to the community that he wants everyone to join their community rather than building their own. You know what? So there's so many reasons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
no,
that we're-
exactly. We can try and fight against each other and say, well, this is correct, this isn't correct. But actually, it's educating each other and why they believe a certain way, why someone else believes a certain way. And as you say, no one's particularly wrong in their opinion, that it's their opinion, they hold that opinion. But to make the industry better, we have to work together.
100%. So do debate, do not troll, and do not
Yes.
make it personal.
No.
And that's all. If we can do
Exactly.
that, we will just accelerate our.
Yeah, and look at
path to
other
adoption.
people's businesses and think, how can I make this better? How can I help that other person that's setting up this incredible business? What's their best things about their business? What's not working quite so well? And how can you actually help them? Because if you don't do that, we're not pushing the industry. We're not allowing people to learn about it. It's just you're holding everything back. If you think your idea is great and everyone else is wrong, that's going to be your whole idea is just going to collapse.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you said, one more thing that's really good to add into those rules of the right mindset, you know, the flexible, open mindset, is I think that a lot of people, when they go into a meeting and they have an idea, it's already fully baked.
Yeah.
Don't make it fully baked, because there's always perspective that will help make your cake even more delicious,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you have maybe a few ingredients to that recipe, but always never go in with the final version.
Yeah,
This is
don't
the
have
right
tunnel
way.
vision. Don't
Yeah.
ignore, because people do that. People do a presentation and they ignore everything else. They'll come to a conference and they won't even look at what else is out there. They'll just be on their booth and they're like, my company's doing amazing.
Yeah.
I love what I do. But like, actually go and have a look. Go and speak to people, because there could be someone out there that's maybe doing something similar to you and you could learn from them. There could be someone who's doing something very different to you, but there could be a collaboration. There's so much potential.
And that, for all the projects out there, is great advice. That's sound advice. I thought about this recently, Lily, but you know, I think that rather than going around a conference and pitching, like entering pitching mode, which by the way annoys most people,
Yeah.
right? Especially at the conferences, because they have many things on the schedule. It's not the right time. I would rather just, you know, go and have coffee one-on-one
Yeah.
and then maybe pitch you, but I wouldn't even pitch you.
Yeah.
So this is what I'd recommend for those who want to raise funds or create these partnerships, is instead of pitching, flip your mindset and ask for advice.
Yeah.
Just ask, hey, listen, you know, we had this idea. First of all, I love to run an idea by you is one of my favorite sentences.
Yeah.
Because running an idea by someone, it shows that you're putting them on a pedestal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then asking them, we thought about this. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
That's all, right? And then will indirectly lead you to a pitch eventually. So
Yeah.
if you see that it's a bit hot, they're kind of biting, then you can open up to share. Do you mind if I share a few ideas then?
Yeah.
And then you open up, you get permission, and then so the whole pitching thing, I think it's way overdone.
Yeah.
I
It
think
definitely
it's,
is.
like the guys who really raise funds successfully, they craft it in a whole different way.
Yeah, and they build relationships.
Yeah.
They make sure they're attending lots of events. They're doing podcasts. They're doing all the different things in the background because they want to and they enjoy their project. If you don't enjoy your project, you're probably just going to be that person that goes around, yeah, please take this away from me. Just invest and get it off my hands in a way. It is.
It's so
It's sort
true.
of like a desperation, like, please I need money and that's it. Like, I'm not interested. Whereas if you really love what you do, you're just going to want to go around and celebrate it a bit. Ask for advice, talk to different people, tell people about your project in a happy, nice way. And that's really what we should all be doing, is trying to, you know, organize small events. Like we were saying, like dinners. Why, it's so sad that I always say it as a female in the industry, like my girlfriends never sit down and discuss blockchain.
Yeah, exactly.
And I work in the industry and I will never go to a dinner and people are like, oh, how's work going? I'll be like, yeah, all good. Like, I had this conference, that conference, but that's it. Like, they're not interested in trading or projects or what's going on. They're like, oh no, I don't understand that. And I really want to promote within the industry, just people just sitting down. If you're in the pub, there's nothing wrong with bringing up the blockchain industry. Nothing wrong with it. And it should be promoted. It should be allowed to speak about a lot more.
100%. So I think like people just like approach you and pitch you immediately. It's literally like saying, hey, Lily, give me your money.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
literally, that's what it's saying.
I see dollar signs.
Yeah, I
Just
see dollar
bring it to
signs.
me. Let me attract it. I've got a magnet. Come on, come on.
The slightly more competent guys will probably ask you, what do you guys do? I'm interested in hearing more.
Yeah.
And then they will pitch. So they'll kind of like open it up for you first, you know, ladies first,
Yeah.
and then now give me the chance to pitch. But still, it's not the best way. I think asking questions, asking for
Yes.
advice
Yeah,
is
definitely.
the ultimate path to leading to something.
Yeah.
Not closing a deal, but as you said, opening a relationship,
Yeah.
and then, you know, following up, you know, accordingly. So, yeah, a lot of these things, again, once again, people are just, you know, it's ingrained in their default mechanisms, which doesn't work.
Yeah, and like we were saying, that people understand their project so well, but they don't realize that not everyone's got exactly the same understanding of what they're doing. So it might make sense to them, but unless they're asking questions, they're not going to know what actually you personally want to find out about the project. They're only going to hear what you just spill out to them, which
Yeah.
actually has no relevance. Questions help so much to find out about what's going on.
Yeah, and you can also qualify them by asking questions. Okay, he's not interested in all. Let me save my energy
Yeah.
and my breath and
Yeah.
not even pitch him, right? Or
Yeah.
her, right?
Yeah, because
So-
people forget, like, people in the industry are busy. There's lots of things going on if you're attending. And so in terms of partnerships, what do you concentrate on? Is it sort of working with these new startups?
Yeah, so we work, I do a lot of go-to-market strategies, influencer marketing, and collaboration with projects, as you were saying.
Yeah.
So, and I've learned over time as well, and this is for those who maybe want to increase partnerships, is you know how in the US you'll read most of these self-help books and you'll hear things like crush the competition, never split the difference, win, lose, you know, all these super alpha capitalistic type books. I think, you know, Swissborg has managed to generate roughly $20 million in revenues through influencer marketing. So that's a pretty good
Wow.
figure
Yes.
to say what I'm saying is not
Yes.
just an opinion, it's data backed. I have always, Lily, gone for the lose-win approach. I've always given without an agenda. I've
Yeah.
always been genuine. I've never pitched a single one of these influencers. I built a meaningful relationship over time. And eventually they come to me and
Yeah.
say, I want to work with you guys. Send the contract.
Yeah, because people appreciate that personal level. And actually, again, someone wanting to get to know someone, understand what are they doing in the industry. I have people come up to me and they're like, I've got this idea, like I need this, but how does that, like in the nicest way possible, how does that relate to me?
Yeah.
What do you want me? And then, I've got this plan and that plan. I'm like, but I don't know, understand how you think I can fit in with what you need done. And it's great that you've reached out to me, but if you have no well, not even a pitch, but no concept of what's the point of even telling me? You're wasting my time and your time if you just think it's a great idea just to reach out. And that's the thing, it is about building relationships and building trust.
Yes. And I never pitched anyone, and a
No.
single one of those influencers.
Yeah, exactly. But
So
they're
again,
the
going
ones.
back to that point,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Because influencers want to work with people that they trust
Yeah.
and brands that they care about. And in this industry, you know, the last thing an influencer wants is to work with scam projects.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to trust you in order to know that you're bringing to the table valid projects.
Because of the reputational risk behind it and all that
course.
kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
if you as an influencer picture or talk about anything that's not relevant or has a scam aspect or is a pump and dump scheme, it looks terrible on you. So you have to trust the people you're working with to know that it is a good project.
And I think that's sound advice for those who want to influence, because everyone
Yeah,
wants influencer
true.
marketing. We're just talking with a lovely
Yeah.
lady earlier, right? Everyone wants it. But when you go into pitch mode, when I receive a cold email saying, you know, we're this, we're that, we, us, I,
Yeah.
there's no you in the email. I mean, first of all, bro, you're taking it from the absolute opposite perspective of what I want to hear.
Yeah.
I want to hear what's in it for me, right?
Yeah.
If I do want to take that, but ideally, once again, I don't want you to pitch me. I want you to come meet me at a conference.
Yeah.
Come shake my hand. Let's go grab tea or coffee.
Yeah, and you're like, you're a cool person.
Yeah.
You actually should have an influence on people rather than sometimes you'll meet people and you're like, I don't quite understand where that influence is, or it's maybe in the wrong way that you're influencing people and you're just talking about things maybe in actually a negative light quite a lot of the time. Sometimes I see in the influencer world that I just question, I'm like, you're talking about charts and are you qualified to talk about that chart? And there's that boundaries in the industry where I think it actually is just about being a relevant person that people trust and care about, but don't give advice that is not correct or you don't actually have the knowledge to give.
100%. And to close the pitch like loop, I think the only circumstance or environment where you should pitch is when you have a group of people where you cannot personalize the message
Yes.
to their heart and brain.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've got an audience you're talking to, or as I say, like a range of investors, then it's fine to, and you need to have the confidence to stand up there and be like, this is my business. This is incredible. But at the same time, as you say, if it's one-to-one interaction, be a person.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all people, we all interact, learn to actually, and it's difficult in an industry where people are quite technological based. Yeah. They see things sometimes in a very different perspective, but it's just realizing that you need to break out of that and realize that we want to reach the masses.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal.
Yeah,
That's
the industry without reaching everyone reaches no one, really. Because if you just keep on trying to reach a niche, eventually that niche, if something goes wrong or they lose faith in it, you just trickle down. You have to keep pushing, keep reaching new audiences. And yeah, that's what I mean. We're all trying to do. You're trying to do it with partnerships, trying to do it with podcasts and events. And I mean, I feel like we both just love the industry, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you said just there is a massive lesson from Philip Kotler, who is considered the father of marketing, as you may know. And he says exactly that. If you're aiming for everyone, you're aiming for no one.
Yeah.
So that's a great phrase as well. Like when people are like, oh, we want to do service B2C, B2B, B2, B2C, or B2, you know, like I'm looking, I'm like, guys, do you realize you're trying to serve everyone, which means that you don't have a clearly defined target. And that scares me. I would not invest in that because you're thinking you're changing the world overnight and that you have a business model that can please everyone. No, these are completely different lines of completely different verticals.
Yeah. If you actually look at human beings as a whole, it's very difficult to target. You can't. No, not a single marketing campaign ever targets everyone. Absolutely. It has a niche market that they're targeting, and that's what you have to learn in crypto, is just trying to push that a little bit more.
Exactly.
Into a little bit, few different people, expanding it a little bit, and then it just creates adoption over time. Yeah. But that's what we're aiming for. Exactly. And yeah, Alex, thank you so much for joining me today. It really has been a pleasure. I feel like we've delved deep. We've gone into lots of the issues about pitching, and it's just exciting. So it's great to have you here. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Talk Crypto to Me. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.